Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any members of the public on the participating remotely?
Chair Paul, there are no members of the public.
Okay, so no public comments then, action items. The first is the adoption of the minutes from the January 16th meeting.
I move approval.
Okay, second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was good. Okay. The item 2, the internet license for Waterwise Gardening.
Madam
Stephanie.
Chair, this is a routine item that comes before you every year for our Waterwise gardening software that's housed on our website. It's also used by the Water Awareness Committee of Monterey County, who we are one of the founding members of. And so we're just looking for the recommendation to the board to approve the expenditure of $5,000 to renew the internet license for the garden soft for Monterey County landscaping. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Actually, I have one.
Go ahead.
Director Edwards, do you have?
No, I don't have.
So, of course, it sounds like a good project, but I do have some questions because first, when I read your staff note, it wasn't clear to me whether people who access this program use it on the website of the Water Management District or whether it's a link to go to someone else's.
No, it's actually, so it is,
But wait,
Yeah, go ahead.
because that,
sorry.
so I decided to try and find out by going to this, I went on the district's website and I found it. But I have to say, it was hard to find, and I think we need to fix that. It's not under the conservation tab, which is where I looked first.
Okay.
It's not under anything that makes any kind of intuitive sense to me, at least. And it's pretty random. It's like in some other category. And so, and if you never heard of the name of the organization that sponsors this program, and I had not heard of that. If you don't know the name, you don't even know what to look for. So I think we should figure out a way to make it easier to find and to recognize on our website.
And we are in the process of reorganizing, redoing our website, so we will keep that in mind. It's also on our joint Cal-Am district website, which is the MontereyWaterInfo.org. And I don't think I mentioned that in there either. But the Water Awareness Committee also has the link on its webpage, but our revised webpage, I will keep that in mind as we go forward. So.
Good. Any other?
Just one more for me. Do we show these items at any of our board meetings? Well, what you need to do is set up a presentation for less, 5 minutes, say, this is this is that, this is it, and that way the public can see it.
Okay.
I haven't, I can't remember a meeting that we had those items. I remember this meeting, but a public meeting where you can show, Kyle, come in and show this is that, and we got these playing cards and, let them know how we spending the money.
Be happy to do that.
If we
Yes.
can put that on a future agenda, not this one, a future one, where we can fill in the spot, a spot with that.
But we can actually just do a very quick PowerPoint that goes through all those nice little devices.
That even better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Those are good ideas. Go to the website.
I was gonna say, if we want, we could show it on the website right now. We have, if you can take me there, I can probably show it to the committee. Okay, never mind that.
Yeah. I move approval. We don't have any public comment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Move on. Okay, the toys.
Yes. Good afternoon. We are proposing to purchase new conservation materials that we'll take to events this summer, spring and summer. $20,000 to refill our supplies. In front of you, we have shower heads, handheld shower head and moisture meter, the 5-minute shower timer, our hose nozzles, and yeah, did not bring any faucet aerators out for you guys. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Well, just, are you, I mean, these are all seem like useful things. Are you, do you feel we have good participation in this program?
Oh, definitely. And, you know, spring Earth Day is really our kind of kickoff to going to public events and that sort of thing. So, yeah, people use this stuff, shower heads. I mean, we'd go out and do inspections and give out the shower heads and people put them in right away.
Yeah, so you heard my comments from the last one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
should have just joined those together and get out of the way, but yeah, people need to see these.
okay,
And this one, I sort of like,
yeah.
so.
What is that?
The shower,
Shower thing.
shower, something I don't go by. But I like it.
And we have every couple of years kind of examine pricing, because I know that was an issue you've raised.
That's right. Thank you for hitting that. I wasn't gonna ask it, but you right on top of it.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was ready for it, that y'all check.
Yes, we did. And
Well, you just need to mention it for the public in the record. I'm glad you did.
thank you.
Very good, thank you.
I move approval.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You.
Hey, Stephanie. Fix a Leak Week is on the agenda for the
Yes.
full board meeting. Are you gonna have a staff note? Okay.
Okay, good afternoon again, Chair and committee member, because certainly we have only one here. So I'll be going over the next 3 action items, and the first one is the district's second quarter financial activity report for the current fiscal year. And I will be quickly sharing my screen so everyone can see. So this item compares the year-to-date revenues and expenditures with the year-to-date budget. So we are basically looking at the mid-year budget and comparing it to the mid-year actuals, both on the revenue and expense sides. And if you look at the exhibit to the staff report, as of December 31st, the district has received revenues of about 11.08 million and had expenditures of about 9.3 million. The revenues account for about 45 or 46% of our year-to-date budget, and the expenditures account for about 38% of our year-to-date budget. So the revenues in the first half of the fiscal year were, not at 50%, mainly because of 2 reasons. Number one is if you look at the grants line item, we have budgeted about 18 million in grant expenditures, the biggest chunk of which is the pure water expansion project. And we haven't billed for that because that project is, I think, still in the submittal phase. So in the next half of the fiscal year, we hope to receive the bills. So as you can see here, we have only got 2% of that revenue. And therefore our revenues are lower than expected. But if you take this outlier out, then on the operating side, we are on track in terms of revenues. And similarly on the expenditures, if you look at the project expenditures line item, there our project expenditures, that's 6.2 million out of the 18.3 million. That's about 34% of our project expenditures. And that's one of the main reasons why our expenses are lower. And then also the district has received the water supply charge. This is not recorded as a revenue. As you can see on the first line, that's being moved to the reserve. And so that's also kind of lowering our revenues for the mid-year.
And I did just get off the phone with Monterey One Water's consultant, and I've asked for a grant schedule. So within a week, we'll have a better understanding of those grant receipts. So we can split them between the remainder of this fiscal year and next fiscal year. And Johanna next door just
Yes.
said, why do you need that?
Right.
I said, because we're recognizing the grant revenue, and we're not spending it. So hopefully it'll get straighter.
Yeah, thank you. I did have a chat with, I think Fred. I was just like, I ran across him while I was walking. So we will be getting the schedule of values, which will give us a better indication of projected expenditures for this project.
And the other thing he said is he thinks that a fairly large invoice of 50 to 70,000 that is reimbursable may have just come over in our directions.
Got it.
Yeah.
So to sum it up, we are on track on the operating side, and on the capital side, the revenues and expenditures are dependent on the construction and completion of the projects that we have in the pipeline.
So are there any, do you have any concerns that you want to bring to our attention, given this?
Not at this point. I mean, just to give you a better visual representation, this is the chart for revenues, and you can see, the biggest driver of that revenue is this grant expense, followed by the revenues for the water supply charge. And then the user fees are and the property taxes, we are on track with that. So, and I think we are good at this point. This is the expenditure side. Again, the project expenditures are driving most of our budget there. And then we recognize reserves at the end of the fiscal year. So that is not being captured yet.
So I want to thank you. Yeah, I reviewed the materials and I didn't spot anything that I felt was a concern, but you know much more about this. And so I'm asking your opinion. I want to thank you because I thought your memo and the exhibits, I mean, it was all very clear, very clearly explained. And then you explained more just now here. So
Thank
very
you.
well
Yes. Happy to answer any questions anytime now or in future. Do you want me to hop on to the next item or?
Mr. Edwards, do you have any questions? Before we do?
I went to the end of the presentation. Go ahead.
Okay,
For the
then
next
I'll
one.
just keep rolling. The next item is the quarterly investment report that the board has been seeing, and I'll just bring this exhibit up. This is a little hard to see here, but about 37% of our portfolio. So our total portfolio size is around 26.5 million at this point. About 37% of that is in LAIF, which is highly liquid. And then another 30% is in the Bank of America money market and checking accounts. Now, a big chunk of these revenues was received in December, the property tax payments. So there's more money sitting in our money market account than we would typically have. And then another 1/3 of our portfolio is in bank CDs and government agencies. So our two aims here are liquidity and safety, and our portfolio complies with our investment objectives of liquidity and safety, followed by yield. So I think that gives a good summary. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
And you said something in there that if I'm in the public, I will wonder why you have more in there than you usually have. What's the reason behind that?
Because we just received property tax revenues in December. So usually the next month we take the excess from our money market account and move it either to LAIF or we buy bank CDs so we can get a little bit better yield.
Okay, because I don't want the public to think we hiding money on them. but they put something there, you straightforward with it, but I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Do you think we ought to change anything now with interest rates and that they haven't changed, but they thinking about changing them, going down, or what do you?
yeah, in an interest rate environment that's going to go down, we would typically want to lock it into higher rates. And so if we can buy bank CDs at higher rates for 3 to 5 years out, then we can keep those rates as long as we don't need that money right away. So bank CDs are a good option. If you could get a bank CD for 5% for a 3-year term, then even if the rates go down to 1 to 2% in the next year or two, then we still have that higher yield bank CD.
So you and Dave are gonna start thinking about that now because the government is
Yeah,
talking
we've
about.
already, we've had a few come up for reinvestment, and that's what's happened. And when interest rates go down, the price, so if you had to market, the price would be going up because the yield is locked in high. And so that actually improves our liquidity position, because then if you did have to sell something, you'll at least sell over what you paid for it, or what its par value was when we bought it. So when they go the opposite way, it's kind of a double risk. As interest rates are going up, you'll be able to buy a higher rate instrument, but in the meantime, your price is going down to somebody who's willing to buy it from you today. And so if you had a liquidity event in a rising interest rate environment, it's not as good. So I think the ones that we've locked in, you can see a few 5%ers in the far right column.
Mhm.
Those are the higher yielding. We've got about 5 that are 4.9 to the low 5s, which is great.
Okay, as long as we looking at them.
Yeah, and I don't know what you're doing with so when the property tax receipts came in, so did the water supply charge revenues. And because of our unfortunate position of keeping it, are you keeping that in LAIF, or where's that going?
We would move it to LAIF because LAIF has the highest liquidity and it also has pretty decent returns at this point.
I mean, I
around
suspect we could,
3%.
we could do a very short-term CD, but we can't go long with it because we may have to refund it.
That's why
Yeah.
I was thinking, good to try to get something out of it since it's sitting there, but then I don't want it to be sit there where we end up have to refund people. And well, we can't do that now for 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't think the public would appreciate that too much. So they'll want that interest.
Yeah, and one thing that General Manager Stolt had raised last time, and he had explained it very well about the laddered portfolio that we have with the bank cities. And this is the dashboard from Multi-Bank Securities, and you can see, on a yearly basis, like this is the maturity distribution of our bank CDs that are coming due. And you can kind of play around with this graph, and we don't want a big chunk of our portfolio to mature at the same time.
Right.
We want that ladder. And so that's this ladder that you can see here. And so as these CDs start maturing, we're trying to invest it at the higher interest rates. And then, if we have extra cash, we can definitely see whether bank CDs or LAIF, what's the optimal way to invest those.
Okay.
I have one question, and this may be for you, Dave, because it's about the Carmel Pebble Beach wastewater project, those bonds, and I don't, that's a history, ancient history. So I remember what it was for, that the district issued bonds in order to
Yeah.
finance that, but I've forgotten most of the details. How much longer?
We paid it off the last one, July 1st of last year. So they're fully retired.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
And
that's excellent.
yeah, it's great. Of course, the first thing they ask us, do we still need to do the enterprise fund audit? And do we need to pay for it? We pay an extra chunk of money to have a good enterprise fund audit reflected on our balance sheet because we were the seller of the water. But our partners are so cheap. They're like, well, now we could save money by not having it audited. And I just dodged the question of just leave it alone and we'll keep doing it. But that question will come back up probably,
Next audit cycle.
yeah, mid-year next year.
To finally like close the books and
Yeah, because we,
what's the reason to audit? Right?
exactly. And, but you may also recall, I don't know if you were on our board yet, but remember how Director Hoffman said, why are we lending the project money to rehab the tanks?
Yeah.
And it's because we were the only one that could, when you're sitting on 20 million, it's our enterprise, it's on our books. So it was really an interfund borrowing.
Uh-huh.
But what we found is we really do have a role in the four entity partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just the financing of the bonds. But every once in a while, it kind of comes up, well, when the bonds are paid off, do we still need the district around? And our answer has always been, yes, you do. But that's another one to expect to hear again. Yeah.
Because of possible future projects? Or
Well, that's what I keep telling them. They've got this, they've got a report out on the capital improvement plan, and about years 15 to 25 is where all the big dollars hit. And in every explanation, they say, oh, well, we can do a borrowing at that time. And I said, well, until you get there, why don't you look at building up a reserve to pay for it? And then you could either reduce the borrowing or maybe not borrow at all. But if they do a borrowing, it's going to be squarely back on us. So,
well,
yeah.
some free consulting, but worth it maybe for the relationship building that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hope we check them with our accountants that audit our books.
Yeah, well,
Because no-
so that account is audited by COD's auditor, and then our account CLA roll it into
Our books,
our
yeah.
books. And it seems to have worked. I mean, right now, I think I've got a higher degree of confidence in their audit of our enterprise fund than our audit of by our auditors, because they're just way behind. I mean, we're scrambling to get you the annual comprehensive financial report for the board meeting
I
next
was
week.
going to ask you, when are we
Yeah.
going to see it?
We are at the final lap, but yes, this is like the crunch time for us.
Okay. All right. So
Did we just renew their contract?
I don't think so. I think we've got it one more year.
We have a 2-year contract with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. We
So
took
this
a
is
year
the-
off
yeah.
of the 3-year proposal.
Right. I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can set that up. You're the new man, start looking.
Yeah.
That's
We,
right.
we have been thinking along that direction.
Yeah, since we didn't commit to 3 years, that's why. So you could come in and say, okay, don't need them. So.
I hope they aren't listening.
Just like it's like-
Uh,
anything more on item 5? Many of you, okay. So we just need to,
Actually, let's pause on this just for a second, because one of the reasons Director Riley wanted to bring up his concerns over financial exposure, and he mentioned that spending $6 million on an ASR well, is the concern that our savings aren't big enough to cover potential legal exposure under Measure J and a project for a new well and refund of the water supply charge and things like that. And so I think when we discuss the taxpayers' lawsuit in closed session, that issue might percolate up as well. I think we're in a great place. I looked at the settlement from the Claremont bench trial, and it was nowhere near this kind of level. It wasn't much more than six or 7 million, which is really overstating. But we're in a very good place that we could do a project, we could refund monies and we could very likely cover any exposure. But if all three happen all at the same time, it'd be 2/3 or more of our total. So anyway, that subject's going to come up.
That makes me think that maybe LAIF is the way to go then.
What is-
No, but fewer 5-year CDs.
Yeah, with
and,
the 5-year series, right?
yeah, keep it a little closer.
Yeah.
Although, as I said, in a declining interest rate environment, your
Yeah.
price risk is not as great. So.
Okay.
Okay, so
Should I move on to the sixth item?
let's see. Do we need to-
That's the treasurer's report.
So we're gonna have a motion to recommend approval to the board.
I move approval to item 5.
Okay, I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Did we have a motion for item 4?
You did not need one. It was just to receive it.
Okay. And item number 6, that's the monthly treasurer's report for the month of December. And I'll just keep it pretty high level here. Our beginning balance was at 20.08 million on December 1st, and ending balance was 26.7 million. We received fee deposits and tax installment payments of about 7.3 million. And our check disbursements amounted to about 2.7 million, which included 76,000 in rebate payments. And let's see, the exhibit B, I don't have it on the screen here, but that's a listing of our cash disbursements and rebates. In the second exhibit, you'll see a negative payment of 23,000. That was for a check that was sent to the wrong address. It was canceled and then it was resent to a new address. This is for our document management system called DocuWare. So just preemptively clarifying that.
I'm glad somebody caught that.
And then exhibit C is the monthly revenue and expense statement for the month of December. Now we have taken the water supply charge reserve has been moved to a footnote at this point, and any water supply charge reserve appeals are also part of that reserve. So you won't see that here in the revenues.
See, good to see that the some of the other sources have increased some, the user property taxes and user fees are up a bit from last year.
Yes, our user fees, which is a percentage of our utility rates, I think they're trending up. And so is the property tax, which is tied to local valuations of the property here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be careful about saying, hey, property taxes are up?
Good point, good point.
Well, people gonna know.
Oh, they know they're going up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they know they go.
They just forget we receive some. of it.
Yeah.
the fire district, the school district.
Here,
All right,
here's my question to you about mid-year review. You've given me December numbers here. This is February. Do it take you a full month to get a month's number? Like January, we get in March?
Yeah, so usually the way it works is we keep getting invoices from our vendors. And so we try to pay them within 30 days. And similarly, the deposits, they have to, we don't receive bank statements at the end of the month. So the bank statements usually come at the 15th of the next month. So it takes us a week to compile the numbers and, they run the reports. So it's usually, a 1 month delay from the previous month, which is pretty good because I've seen public agencies that are way behind then.
Yeah, well,
where
I
we
know
are.
cities usually do mid-year review in January. the books are closed, that 6 months are closed out, and then they projecting for the next 6 months. Now, my problem is when we're gonna project for the next 6 months in March. And we 3 months into the
Yeah,
second half, so,
yeah. Because we're doing the mid-year budget review right now.
okay,
And so it won't be ready to go till the March board meeting. So, yeah, we're just kind of stuck. I do know on the reclamation project, we have a meeting tomorrow and they're in the same boat. They're showing December numbers.
okay. So,
As far as I can remember, it's always been about that lad.
yeah,
Yeah, here.
well, now we got a different CFO and that's.
Well, but you always, we try to keep everything on an accrual basis. So you're trying to match so he mentioned the invoices, but
Yeah,
if you want to get it into the right period. And so if it's not,
yeah, because we do it in March, April, May, we doing for next budget year.
yeah.
And those numbers,
And when you were on the board in the 2000s,
yeah,
you were actually always behind about 3 months. And our electronic systems that we've now had for 8 years have really expedited that. So the only place we see a problematic lag is when we've finished the fiscal year, but we haven't gotten the audit results to a point where you start losing kind of August and September numbers. And so things do get a little bit slow as you're trying to match up with your end of fiscal year numbers, but then we catch up pretty quick in November, December, and January. So.
okay,
All right.
Yeah, I get your point. Yeah, we're trying to sometimes it's a trade-off between getting it right and then getting it right away. So,
right. I just want you comfortable because, March and then in May, we got our study session and we're budgeting for the following year. And if I'm doing that at mid-year, the budget for the next year should be easy.
Yeah.
We're not gonna add that much, So, okay. Well, you need approval on this one?
Yes,
To
please.
recommend.
Yeah, or to recommend approval
Let's see what, receiving it, approved.
to the board.
You need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recommend approval to the board on item 6.
Oh, adoption. That's what
Adopt.
I was looking for the word, yeah. Okay, I second the motion to recommend that the board adopt item 6.
Thank you. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is adopted. Okay, let's see what our next item.
Chair, the next 2 items are informational, just report on contracts over 25,000 and on
Yeah.
Measure J expenses. We have tried to clean this up from from the last meeting. You'll see a smaller set of contracts on item number 7. And then we've also tried to kind of clean up some of the reporting for Measure J.
Sort of a little bit of removing unnecessary things.
Yeah, just going back and looking at what time an authorization was made for a particular expense and trying to match it with the actual expenses for that phase.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Well,
No
that's
question.
appreciated. You had a comment, a question?
Nope.
Okay.
No comments, questions.
Okay. Really great start here. I think then we do have a discussion item. And that,
Just one more. 8A, I mean 8. Measure J. Dave, when you gonna ask for the additional money?
Probably not till budget. I think we have enough to make it through the fiscal year.
Okay. Let's make sure it's in there for budget.
Oh, yeah. It's-
I noticed that for the phases, if I'm remembering right, 2, 3, and so far 4, we we spent less than what was budgeted.
Yeah, so, well, LAFCO cost us to overspend on certain things, like we had to redo the appraisal.
Mhm.
But it also meant that there was absolutely no work being done on the findings at that time. So we had expected there to be a big legal expense.
And that came later.
That came later.
Yeah.
So, but the legal budget that they gave us for just the eminent domain proceeding is 1.2 million. And we've identified a series of other things that we need to do. We've gotten a budget for the scope of services from Reftelis. And so just for their work in support of it, it's a couple $100,000. So we're gonna need another 800 probably. And I just don't think we need to bring that at mid-year budget, but as part of the regular budget.
Well, I like to make sure that we have it cut out.
Yeah.
So people start looking at our numbers and it's there, set aside and we're moving ahead with what we got to do. So,
Well, and we're gonna have to do some things that aren't gonna actually have a useful end product other than to position us for the bench trial. So in other words, if we choose to do a rate study,
Mhm.
it won't be any good by the time you get your valuation phase through. But it'll show that based on the current baseline of where CalAm is today or for the next 2 years, here's what rates could look like.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so you tell a judge, see, that's where savings occur. That's why it's better. And then financeability, we were just talking about this today. We probably should go through the rating agencies. But because we don't have an actual financing, it won't be a credit rating. It'll be what they refer to as a shadow rating.
Mm.
But it'll be a measure of what your credit worthiness is, so that when we make representations that we're an investment grade credit, they'll say, well, where's the proof? And we'll say, here's the proof. Standard & Poor's, for one, has a program that does that, which is, if you had a financing, here's how we would rate you. So it would make sense to go through it, but you wouldn't do the financing until you get through the valuation phase too. So there will be a lot of these expenditures just to position the district.
and that may be good because Mr. Laredo,
Yes, sir.
the rate cases that they're doing now, when are they going to be approved and moved to the ratepayers?
Sometime this fall.
So it will be good to
Probably
do
more like
these.
August, September.
Okay,
But the unfortunate thing in this particular case is they'll be 2 years behind.
Yeah.
And normally they're just 1 year behind. And so you get approval and then you've got 2 years going forward under that 3-year rate case. But this one, I want to register my protest. So we're on the phone with JEA to Sacramento about legislation. And like, well, we don't like to go around local agency formation commissions. We don't like going around other state agencies, blah, 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 blah. Well, when the PUC eliminated the water revenue adjustment mechanism, the investor-owned utilities got together. They found an assembly member outside of LA. They got legislation passed to reinstate the revenue adjustment mechanism. So they used the legislature to go around the PUC,
Oh,
and that allowed them to resubmit their application in this current rate case. And everybody's lined up behind CalAm to see if they're successful with the new. Everything old is new again, revenue adjustment mechanism.
I've seen this happen many times, and when they
Yeah.
don't get what they want from the CPUs.
Well, City and County of San Francisco looks into buying PG&E. A piece of legislation gets passed that says any electric utility buyout by a public agency has to go through the PUC to show benefit to the ratepayers. Luckily for us, they didn't add the words or water utility. So it's an electric only piece of legislation. But again, somebody used the legislature to stop San Francisco.
South San Joaquin Irrigation District.
So
Okay,
my complaint
Okay.
registered.
Registered.
it's registered. What's,
The other day.
what's the next item?
The agenda?
Right,
Agenda for next.
Oh, meeting schedule first, yeah.
Yeah, meeting schedule. I have two conflicts for two meetings according to this schedule. I just wanted everybody to give you a heads up about that. Here we go. So I see they're mostly on Mondays, except for November and January and in February. I will not, I told Mark, the alternate for this committee, I won't be able to do April 8th. And I also won't be able to do June 10th, because I will be away. I've given Sarah the exact dates of when I'm not available. I'll give it to you too, Dave. So all I can suggest, I'll speak to, Mark said he could be there on April 8th, and I'll ask him about June 10th.
And we've often had Finance Administration Committee on Tuesdays if need be, so depending on what the resolution is, Sarah finds out. We could move it to a Tuesday or something.
Okay, well, that wouldn't solve my,
Yeah, not if you're running off for a few days or something.
yeah, Monday to Tuesday wouldn't change my availability, but it might change Mark's. Okay, but I know it's complicated. You have so many.
Well, we have the Monday meetings before, a week before the board meetings, because after this meeting, the reports that are in your packet get processed for the board packet.
Right, right. So
So-
it has to be at least, it has to be the week.
So pushing the meeting to Tuesday, yes, it's possible. It's
But
just
not
a little more
right.
crunch time, yeah,
Okay,
but
so
it's doable. We've done it.
only if necessary. So, well, I guess we can adopt this meeting schedule for now with the, and if necessary, we'll change it.
Yes.
I don't see.
okay, you move adoption, I'll second it.
Okay, favor.
Aye,
Aye. Okay, for now, that's the schedule for this committee, and then we have the draft agenda.
Yeah, I just want to run you through a few things.
Changed again.
Okay.
well, that's good. I might not have too much to say
Thank
about it.
you. What caught my eye is the annual financial report.
Yeah. 51% sure it'll be ready. So we have 3 closed session items, but they'll be very brief. CS1 is just to find out if this board is currently put together wants to have a representative in the room in negotiations with our units, because labor will start negotiations sometime in March. CS2 is at the request of the vice chair. And I think in prep,
Yes.
you need to be able to tell us, once we're in appeal, can you settle?
Yeah. The answer is yes, you can.
Okay,
You can always sell.
so what Director Riley's gonna pitch is, why don't we just agree to let,
Why don't we save this?
yeah, okay. Yeah, because it is a closed session, yeah. And then item 3 is the discussion of the relative to the letter you got in your packets last month about delay in Laredo and changes to staffing. And I'll resend that letter in the closed session packet.
I have 2 other items that should go between 2 and 3. I am certain that the board would want to discuss the status of the LAFCO lawsuit.
Right on. You said that right.
And I'm certain that the board would like to have an update as to what's happening with the eminent domain action. So
If any, they need to be on
CS3
there.
should be MPWMD versus LAFCO. And Sarah, you already have that case number. And the new CS4 should be MPWMD versus Cal-Am, and you have that case number. And if you need me to provide it, I will. But those are going to be short reports, but
I expect. but I'm glad they on there and we need to keep them on there as long, you know.
Yeah, and I think we have a February 9th date coming up that has some import.
Every year.
Well, that,
No,
that's
no,
why I
it-
want them on there.
I know.
That's why I want them on there, because if it's not on here, you can't say nothing about it.
Yep.
I don't care if it's nothing to report.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say why. So, okay.
And
Good.
then turning to the beginning with public hearings. Item 10 is the second reading of the
Can I-
ordinance.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dave. The last item for the closed session, which has to do with the changes of delay and Laredo, so we got to include Michael at some point in the discussion. Would that be different?
I think the discussion of general counsel is also about the firm. It's all going to be capable of being discussed under that.
And can Michael participate,
Um,
not waiving any privilege?
he'll be here if you want him. But you can excuse him, and you should excuse him at some point. So, but he'll be at that meeting.
But I mean, legally, can
Well,
he
you legally
participate
may,
in
yes, just as,
closed session?
yes, you may.
And as I said, I'll make sure I'll resend the letter that was in your packet
Yeah.
from last time, as well as our current agreement for legal services, so you can just see where
So
we
we can
stand.
prepare, read that before. It's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, so, sorry, Dave.
No,
back to
so
you.
item 10 is the second reading. This is the ordinance to help close the loop on the Ascent Building project in Seaside.
Mhm.
Normally, there would have been a second item, which would be the hearing on a water distribution system amendment. The attorney for the developer and the city attorney didn't do their part in being ready, so it'll probably get done through a separate administrative hearing run by Fran in a couple of weeks after the board meeting.
But they have the water, and because I want to know if it's holding up, so I can sit up there and say, this is held up. It's been approved, but it's held up until that water distribution system gets,
No, we are bending our own rules to make sure that
and
the
don't say that.
project
Okay,
didn't
well,
get bound.
be able to explain it,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna ask that question. How come it's not done?
Oh, it's
And you can
moving along, but
move it along and,
the sovereign nation that is Seaside
no, well, that, hey,
moves to its.
hey, I represent them over there, and they gotta do their part just as much.
Yep.
The monarch that's
So,
Sherry Damon.
So we will make sure the water distribution system permit does get amended. It may just be, as I said, an administrative hearing rather than a board public hearing. If we can time it, we have a couple other things we need to do with,
okay,
I think it's September Range has to come back. One of the others has to come back. Item 11 is, I don't know which one's, okay, the stapled version is a new one.
Fix the leak weed.
Yeah. Oh, we just inverted. Okay, so yep, fix a leak week
Oh,
is
that,
number 11. It used to be,
that one would be a good point to show those items.
that's what I was thinking when you were saying it.
Yeah,
So
that's a good one to show the items that we got. And
Number 12 is the annual comprehensive financial report. And Sarah, there's a vowel missing in the recommended action.
oh,
And item 13, you may recall in August, we brought a technical memo to you where our environmental consultants determined that the water allocation program is a project and therefore needed to be reviewed as for what the best vehicle would be to comply with CEQA. An addendum was proposed, and so this is the approval of addendum number 2 to the supplemental EIR. We have it in hand. By law, you're supposed to just consider it. That's what the law says. But the action will say, consider and approve.
So there's no public comment period
The-
required?
Right, and it doesn't have to be circulated.
Good. Come on.
Yeah, and this,
What-
you may have heard me mention before, we've often adopted addenda
Mhm.
with resolutions. Turns out you don't have to. So,
So what is the best way to make sure that we overcover it and you can't come back and say it needs to, you know, I believe in going to the max on these things because we got people out there trying to shut us down.
yeah, technically, you're supposed to review an addendum in conjunction with the original EIR. So your staff note will have a link to where to find the original EIR. And then you're all supposed to nod and say, yeah, I've considered it in conjunction with the actual 2021 SEIR. And then there will be a finding, and the finding that you will make is just part of the recommendation where under a certain section of the CEQA guidance, you have to make a determination that there's no substantial evidence that says you needed to do more and do a subsequent EIR. And so you'll just find that there is no substantial evidence.
So, Ms. Loretta, I guess you'll be ready on this one.
Yes, sir.
So we can hit all the legal aspects of it and I
Yes,
know
sir.
they're gonna go after it. They've been after every other thing, EIR, we undone, so.
Maybe not this one.
I'm
Oh,
not
they'll
sure.
go after this one because it's allocation of water.
I think we have a different relationship with the cities now.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, that's with the cities, but
But, you know, Calam's neutral on that.
Okay.
It's the size of the pie. It's not how you slice it, how you divide it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yep.
There,
But I will be ready.
Cal-Am's attitude's gonna be, oh, go have your fun with your little bit of water, but it's not enough.
well,
The ledge advocacy plan is here, item 14. And that's just a slight update on the 2023, so it hasn't gone through the ledge advocacy committee because it doesn't really need to. It got strongly rewritten last year, and so it's kind of just a continuation. Slight updates. Diane Feinstein's picture has been retired.
Good.
And then there should be a discussion on, item 15, and this is just an opportunity for the board to decide how they want to go about adopting strategic goals. At chair, vice chair, there were two separate proposals pitched. So you'll hear from each of your colleagues as to what we meant.
I think we ought to add another discussion item to this. And it's one that we talked about. Department of the Land Commission.
State lands.
Yes, is asking for some information. You hear this again, but the one that I think the board needs to discuss, if we want to use our environmental agency that we have on hand to discuss, do Cal-Am need another EIR for this reduced 4.8 plant they talking about doing?
Oh,
Let's adjourn this meeting.
yeah.
And then
Okay, I
Just
just want-
casually
Yeah.
chit chat about that
okay,
with no board quorum.
So anything else on the agenda items
no.
before we adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned. At
Awesome.
I guess that clock needs